Tragic events have shaken the world. A medical student vanished in the Dominican Republic, while a young life was cut short in a Guyana hotel pool. Two seemingly unrelated drowning incidents. But a shocking discovery by three international medical experts forced us to look at these tragedies from a different angle. What connects them will make you question the official versions of events. 20-year-old Siddiq Shah Kananki, hailing from a small town, dreamed of a big future. As a medical student at the University of Pittsburgh, she called her mother every evening after classes, sharing her excitement about becoming a doctor. Siddiq's parents, who emigrated from India for their daughter's better future, were proud of her achievements. The spring break in the Dominican Republic was supposed to be a well-deserved reward for months of hard work. Even now, her parents keep Siddiq's medical school application on the kitchen table as their most precious relic. With tears in her eyes, the girl's mother told journalists, "She called me every evening after classes." During our last conversation, Siddiq was incredibly excited about her long-awaited vacation. But this vacation turned into the worst nightmare any parent could imagine. So, on March 3, 2025, Siddiq Shah arrived in Punta Cana with 5 friends from the University of Pittsburgh. The Rio Republica Hotel promised the perfect adult-only all-inclusive getaway, true luxury against the backdrop of pristine sandy beaches. But just 3 days later, surveillance cameras captured the last hours of Siddiq's life. On March 6, she danced at the resort's nightclub until 3 a.m., interacting with other vacationers, including 24-year-old Joshua Stephen Ripe from Iowa. The guy seemed quite friendly. Around 4 a.m., cameras caught Siddiq and Joshua, holding hands, heading towards the beach. There seemed to be a certain closeness between them. As the night was coming to an end, the dynamics in the group were changing. By 5:50 a.m., most of Siddiq's friends had already returned to their rooms. But the girl herself and Joshua remained on the beach under the starry sky. After that, no one ever saw Siddiq alive again. When Siddiq's panic-stricken friends reported her missing at 4 p.m., one of the largest search operations in the Dominican Republic's history began. Over 300 people from American, Dominican, and Indian agencies combed the area. Divers, helicopters, and Coast Guard boats were involved. But all in vain. It's worth noting that a few weeks earlier, the beach had already become a scene of tragedy. On January 17, 4 tourists died there after ignoring warning red flags about dangerous conditions. Out of 6 people who entered the water that day, only 2 survived. But the events that unfolded later raised a number of controversial questions for investigators. Joshua Ripe's story kept changing, which immediately aroused suspicion. At first, he claimed that he and Siddiq went swimming but were hit by a big wave. Joshua allegedly managed to swim back, but after swallowing seawater, he felt sick. According to the second version, the guy fell asleep on the beach, and when he woke up, Siddiq was gone. The third version was that Ripe felt unwell and left the girl alone in knee-deep water. Later, surveillance cameras captured Joshua wandering around the resort shirtless and barefoot, but without Siddiq. However, those who knew the guy painted a somewhat different picture. Friends said that he had been drinking alcohol that evening, which could have affected his ability to clearly remember events. The inconsistencies in Ripe's accounts might not have been an attempt to mislead the investigation, but rather the result of fragmented memories of a person struggling with guilt over the inability to help someone under his care. During questioning, Joshua seemed to be simply crushed by the weight of responsibility. Investigators noted his genuine despair and repeated expressions of regret for leaving Siddiq alone. After a thorough investigation, on March 31, all charges against Ripe were officially dropped, as it turned out that his detention had violated the laws of the Dominican Republic. Sometimes the most suspicious behavior arises not from guilt over what was done, but from remorse over inaction. Meanwhile, the Dominican Coast Guard released chilling facts. It turns out that this area of the Caribbean Sea has the strongest currents, reaching speeds of 4 to 5 knots. Even Olympic swimming champions wouldn't survive in such conditions. Siddiq Shah's body was never found. Eventually, her desperate parents had to ask the authorities to officially declare their daughter dead, although they never lost hope that she could have survived and was somewhere in the hard-to-reach areas of the Caribbean basin. But this was only the beginning of a series of events, the echoes of which reverberated thousands of miles from the Dominican Republic. 2,000 miles to the south, in Guyana, another tragedy occurred. 4-year-old Adriana Young loved family gatherings and felt like a fish in water. Her grandmother often took the girl to local pools, where she would spend hours playing with other kids. Adriana was a true light for her family, a bright child who should have returned home carefree after a one-day trip. But fate had other plans. On April 24, 2025, Adriana, along with her grandmother and other relatives, visited the double-day hotel in the town of Tucson, in the Piana region. It was supposed to be a typical family outing, filled with smiles and warm memories. The girl was last seen by the hotel pool shortly after 1 p.m. And 20 hours later, her body was found in the same water that had been repeatedly searched before. Adriana's father, Siddiq Young, stumbled upon his daughter's body during a protest action, whose participants demanded a more thorough investigation from the authorities. How could it happen that a child's body suddenly appeared in a pool that had been carefully examined before? Adriana's condition immediately raised a number of questions for her mother, Amisha Simon. She couldn't understand where and under what circumstances her daughter had drowned. And she was also alarmed by strange marks on the girl's skin. When I was identifying the body, the physical evidence contradicted the official version, Amisha said through tears. Adriana's relatives noticed discrepancies between the preliminary and final examination results. During the first examination, quite unusual things were found. But for some reason, these details were not mentioned in the official autopsy report. The mother was indignant, barely holding back her emotions. What could explain the presence of cotton in the nose of a girl who had allegedly simply drowned? And why did potentially important evidence disappear just when it was needed most? It turns out that 13 years earlier, a similar incident occurred in the same hotel. A young man named Siddiq German died in the pool under mysterious circumstances. Some wondered, were there too many coincidences? At first, everything seemed quite simple. 3 world-renowned experts, Dr. Glenn Rudner from Mount Sinai Hospital, Dr. Nihal Singh from Delaware, and Dr. Zulika Clark from Barbados, came to a unanimous conclusion: Adriana died from drowning, with no signs of violence. The case was closed. But the girl's relatives didn't believe the official version. Something about it seemed fundamentally wrong. And then, in May 2025, Adriana's family took a desperate step. They sent the girl's body to the USA for re-examination. The case was taken up by Dr. Carol Terry, the chief medical examiner of Gwinnett County, Georgia. Her findings shocked everyone who thought they knew the truth. Dr. Terry refused to confirm drowning as the cause of death, although 3 leading experts were convinced of it. America's most authoritative medical examiner had a different opinion. In an interview with journalist Travis Chase, she noted that under the given circumstances, drowning was out of the question. To prove drowning, you must first rule out all other possible causes of death. But nothing during the autopsy indicated drowning specifically, Dr. Terry emphasized. However, her doubts were only the beginning of this story unfolding. On the other side of the Atlantic, Dr. Mark Devenish from Nottingham University Hospital reached even more stunning conclusions. Dr. Devenish's findings were astonishing. According to his analysis, Adriana could not have drowned in the hotel pool. After all, when a person drowns in a large volume of water, their body absorbs a significant amount of liquid, which leads to an increase in density and, as a result, sinking to the bottom. However, Adriana was found on the water's surface with no signs of prolonged immersion. The forensic evidence pointed to a completely different scenario. The pool could have been only a secondary scene, not the primary one. The girl's tragic death shook the Guyanese diaspora around the world, uniting it like never before. From New York and Toronto to London, Barbados, Jamaica, and Suriname, hundreds of Guyanese community members gathered for candlelight memorial services. The streets of Brooklyn echoed with chants of "Say her name, Adriana," under the unfurled flags of Guyana. The Guyana Rights of the Child Commission issued an uncompromising statement: justice for Adriana is not a matter of discussion, but a moral imperative. The deceased girl's aunt, Amika Lewis, could barely hold back tears during a TV interview as she recounted the family's desperate attempts to find the truth. "We just want to know what happened," her poignant words resonated in the hearts of viewers around the world. Meanwhile, questions began to arise about the thoroughness of the investigation. What exactly determined the chosen approaches to the case, professional competence or, perhaps, some other factors? Against the backdrop of growing public discontent, the hotel owners hastily left Guyana, which only heightened the suspicions of those demanding the establishment of those responsible for the tragedy. Meanwhile, two families, separated by thousands of kilometers, faced similar challenges that no parent should ever have to endure. Returning to the Punta Cana case, Siddiq Shah's parents, immigrants who sacrificed everything for their daughter's education, were forced to declare her legally dead without ever finding her body. The return to Pittsburgh was filled with pain and unanswered questions. The girl's mother still sets a place for her at the dinner table every evening, refusing to accept the fact that her child will never walk through the door again. In distant Guyana, Adriana's family spent all their savings to bring the girl's body to the USA for re-examination, desperately searching for answers that seemed to slip away with each new examination. Despite all efforts, international resonance, and global calls for justice, uncertainty remained the heaviest burden for the relatives. "We just want to know what happened to our child," Adriana's Aunt Amika Lewis repeated through tears on TV, and her pain reverberated in the hearts of people around the world. The family's lawyer, Dr. Dexter Todd, spoke unequivocally. "The family is currently not interested in what the government thinks at all. They want to know the truth." Despite the distance between the Caribbean and South America, both cases have striking similarities that go far beyond the tragic circumstances of death. In both situations, timing played a key role. Siddiq Shah disappeared in the morning when supervision was minimal, and Adriana, during 20 mysterious hours when experienced rescuers for some reason could not find her body in the hotel pool. Both cases are marked by contradictions in the timeline of events and inconsistencies in eyewitness accounts. Each incident divided the international medical community, forcing experts to reach completely opposite conclusions. And each tragedy occurred in a paradise location where the needs of the tourism industry often force authorities to provide convenient, official explanations as quickly as possible. But perhaps most alarming is the economic aspect of these tragedies. After all, popular tourist destinations are critically dependent on the influx of vacationers and are ready to quickly close high-profile cases, even when the families of the deceased and independent experts raise quite reasonable questions. However, from a scientific point of view, it can be extremely difficult to prove the fact of drowning, especially when the body has been in the water for a long time. This circumstance creates unique challenges for the investigation, which even experienced professionals find difficult to cope with. However, when the opinions of several reputable experts differ drastically, the natural question arises: what evidence was overlooked or deliberately ignored? The stories of Siddiq Shah and Adriana should serve as a painful lesson. Deadly dangers often lurk behind the picturesque landscapes of paradise spots. These tragedies also bring to the public eye uncomfortable questions about justice, accountability, and the real value of human life, especially when it comes to young women in popular tourist locations. For Siddiq Shah's family, a fragile hope still lingers that the girl may be alive somewhere in the vast expanses of the Caribbean basin with its mosaic of islands. Investigators are reluctant to acknowledge such a possibility, but they rarely discuss it publicly. The girl's loved ones continue to cling to every hint of a miracle, even though months pass without any encouraging news. In Adriana's case, key questions revolve around the 20-hour period between her disappearance and the discovery of her body. How could a child suddenly appear in a pool that had been thoroughly searched by a whole group of people before? And why did the conclusions of international medical luminaries regarding the causes of the girl's death turn out to be so contradictory? Despite the completion of the official investigation, the families of Siddiq Shah and Adriana do not stop trying to get to the truth. Sometimes the most important consequence of a tragedy is not so much the answers as the questions it poses to society. The very questions that can protect other young lives, if only someone dares to hear them. While the beaches of Punta Cana welcome new vacationers every day, and the hotel pools of Guyana invite families in search of relaxation, the tourism industry is working tirelessly, leaving extremely important questions unanswered. Two young women. Two tropical paradises. Two families whose lives have changed forever. And the search for truth that does not stop, even when the world around them lives its usual life. For Siddiq Shah's loved ones, it is a painful uncertainty between hope and despair as they wait for news about the girl's fate. For Adriana's relatives, it is a desperate attempt to achieve justice, which seems more and more elusive with each passing day. As of today, both cases remain officially unsolved. Siddiq Shah's family continues to believe that the girl is alive. Adriana's family tirelessly demands answers to their questions. But perhaps the most important thing that these two tragedies are capable of is to make us rethink the concept of a paradise vacation and, ultimately, protect other young women from the terrible fate of Siddiq Shah and Adriana. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Until next time, friends.